Hello, hello, Dr. John Jaco Guderson here, the singing psychiatrist. So his name was Mickey. He was 52 years old. I'm changing his name, of course. And he was my patient in the hospital. He said, "Doctor, I want to sing a song." So we sang it. Went something like this. Tell Laura I love her. Tell Laura I need her. Becky. When I was a resident years previous, learning to be a psychiatrist, one of my mentors came up to me and said, "John, let's go to this house where there's people who have mental difficulties." So we went, and sure enough, it was a house filled with about 15 people with schizophrenia. To be honest, I was pretty freaked out. They came up to me, they invaded my bodily space, they were malodorous. But as the hour went by, I became to really get quite enamored with them. They were very, very pleasant, very honest, very open. And when I finished my psychiatric residence, I actually wound up working there and took care of them and really got to know them. I really came to love them, and we really enjoyed each other. Schizophrenia, what is it? Well, many people think of schizophrenia as something like double personality, split personality, but that's not really what it is. First of all, schizophrenia, it affects people usually in their late teens and their early 20s. It cuts across virtually all socioeconomic groups, and it affects about 1% of the world's population, which when you think about it is quite a few people. What happens in schizophrenia is both positive and what we call negative symptoms. And sadly, the vast, vast majority of schizophrenia never return to their previous level of optimal functioning. The positive symptoms, well, they can have hallucinations. These are usually auditory hallucinations, hearing voices. The voices are usually outside of their head, not inside of their head. In the worst cases, these hallucinations are command hallucinations, telling them to do things that may actually not be safe to themselves or to others. When this kind of thing happens, well, they can oftentimes wind up in a psychiatric hospital. They also can have delusions, grandiose delusions, thinking they have special powers, or paranoid delusions, thinking that people are coming after them, or there's some cartel that's plotting against them. They think they can read other people's minds, or they think people can read their minds. Those are the usual positive symptoms. Then there's what we call negative symptoms, where they really are not functioning. And that is true. They usually don't take good care of themselves. They can be quite malodorous. They wind up not brushing their teeth, taking showers, brushing their hair, taking care of themselves. They usually can't really multitask too well, and so they tend to have jobs, if they have jobs, which is sort of doing the same thing over and over again. They usually don't do so well academically and oftentimes have to drop out of college, or their social network begins to diminish because they don't pick up on the normal social graces. So back to Mickey. I met Mickey because, lo and behold, at the age of 52, he was walking along the Pennsylvania Turnpike, weaving all over the place. The police were contacted and they picked him up, and he landed in my psychiatric hospital. And so I met Mickey. "Mickey," I said, "what brings you here?" He said, "Doctor, please let me out of here. I got to go. I got to go to Philadelphia to find Laura." Well, of course, Philadelphia, when he was on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, was 250 miles away, and there he was walking. I said, "Laura, when did you meet Laura?" He said, "Well, it was back in college, back at Penn State, when I was a freshman." I said, "Oh, okay, well, how long did you know her? Did you date her?" He said, well, no, actually, I never dated her. She was in my class, my freshman class, and I actually never really talked to her. But doctor, the way she looked at me, those eyes, the way she looked at me, she loves me, doctor, and I love her, and I've never forgotten her." Well, of course, sadly, in his freshman year, Mickey had fallen into psychotic thoughts, thinking that he could read other people's minds, they could read his. His life fell apart. He had to drop out of school. He had no friends. He wound up being hospitalized and ultimately lived in this group home there. Every couple of years, he would venture out there on the Pennsylvania Turnpike heading to Philadelphia, where he was certain Laura was there, where he was certain that Laura was waiting for him. He turned to me and said, "Doctor, I love Laura, and she loves me. She's just waiting for me to come. She's there somewhere in Philadelphia. Could we please sing this song together?" Well, I don't think he really knew that I was the singing psychiatrist, but said, "Sure, let's sing it." So it's a song back in the 50s or maybe the 60s. Probably many of you don't know it. I don't really know it that well, but we sang a little of it together. Tell Laura I love her. Tell Laura I need her. That was Mickey. I really liked him. Sadly, I found out a couple years later that Mickey had passed away from cancer. And so I grieved for him. I thought a lot about him. He had passion. He had a mission in his life, a purpose in his life, even though it was in the midst of his psychotic thoughts. His mission, his passion, his connection was Laura. Laura, who was out there somewhere, and how much he wanted to connect with her. One of the amazing things I've learned with people with schizophrenia is that they're very, very spiritual people. They very much are connected. I call it raw brain, unfiltered. In fact, on the psychiatric ward, oftentimes they would come up to me holding the Bible and say, "Doctor, please, can you tell me what this verse in the Bible is all about?" And we would talk about it. Like Mickey, a yearning for connection, a yearning to connect to a higher power. I learned from Mickey, as I've learned from many schizophrenic patients, that we all have inside of us a soul that yearns for connection, a soul that wants something more than our normal everyday life. Schizophrenics, and all of us wanting to connect. Thank you very much.